Having discussed some of the causes of job performance, we now turn to some specific outcomes. First and foremost, high job performance is an outcome of job satisfaction. Satisfied employees have positive attitudes regarding their jobs, such as work on time, work speedily, work free of errors and omission, loyalty and commitment to their job, less dependability, more concern about given target, suggest new ideas, tend to improve knowledge, willing to accept more responsibility, obedience of rules and regulations, less absenteeism, and effort to retain their present jobs. So, the positive attitudes will increase the quality and quantity of employees' performance. Secondly, organizational citizenship behavior, or we can call it OCB, is also considered as an outcome of job satisfaction. As you might have known, OCBs include people talking positively about their organizations, helping others, and going beyond the normal expectations of their jobs. Evidence suggests that job satisfaction is moderately correlated with OCB. That means people who are more satisfied with their job are more likely to engage in citizenship behavior. So, why does job satisfaction lead to OCB? One reason is trust. Individuals who feel their co-workers support them are more likely to engage in helpful behaviors than those who have conflicting co-worker relationships. Personality matters too. Individuals with certain personality traits such as emotional stability, openness, extraversion, agreeableness, and conscientiousness are more satisfied in their work, which in turn leads them to engage more in OCB. Finally, individuals who receive positive feedback on their OCB from their peers are more likely to continue their citizenship activities. Thirdly, job satisfaction increases customer satisfaction and loyalty. Satisfied employees help produce satisfied customers, as they are likely to assist customers with a more pleasant demeanor and a higher level of customer service. This creates a more satisfying customer experience, increases customer loyalty, and drives increased profitability. Therefore, any business needs to focus effort on frontline service staff, those employees that have direct and daily contact with customers. The connection between frontline employees and customers should be at the center of management attention. Managers need to take into consideration the additional factors that yield profitability at every level of the organizations, such as investment in good and quality workers, improved technology that support frontline employees, concrete recruiting and training practice, and compensation linked to employee performance. Finally, life satisfaction is the last outcome of job satisfaction. It is observed that there is a strong relationship between job and life satisfaction. Since job affects life, increasing job satisfaction levels of employees will also contribute to general life satisfaction of employees. So, general life satisfaction and satisfaction gained from work will operate collectively. Individuals who are not satisfied with their jobs will be unhappy in their private life, or unhappiness in general life of individuals will prevent them from having job satisfaction. Hence, for most individuals, work is an important part of life. And of course, it makes sense that our overall happiness depends in no small part on our happiness in work or our job satisfaction.
Multiple studies have actually shown that the outcome of job satisfaction actually work the opposite way to job dissatisfaction, because low job satisfaction is actually a predictor of neglect or work-life violence or even excess. So now I want to talk about employees respond to dissatisfaction. Here on the left you have active and passive, and on the top you have constructive and destructive. So if there are problem and you take an active approach and is a constructive active approach, you are going to exercise voice. However, if the manager does not listen to your voice, it's going to work out differently. Over the time, the employee will learn to either just say, okay, I'm going to be constructive and passive and be loyal. Or if they are passive and destructive, they're going to neglect the job. And if it's get too unbearable and they just can't stand it anymore, they're going to take the active and destructive approach, and that exists. And now I want to make it a little clearer for you about how an employee actually behave when they choose one of the four approach. First, voice. So most of the time when an employee says complain about things, they are actually exercising voice because they care and they are attempting to improve their working condition, improve the situation that they are getting in. So they would probably tell the manager something like, there is a problem, please help us. If the manager listens, they will shout out and they will help you to find a problem that you need to address. But in the scenario that the manager does not listen, over time, the employees might just figure out that they can't do nothing to change the situation. So they instead learn to accept it and mind their own business, and they do not care anymore. So they become the loyal staff and they will do the job with endurance. This usually happens if the employee is the kind of person who is highly agreeable. But if the worker is not that agreeable, but rather a more incompatible person, they are likely to neglect the job. Neglect is usually demonstrated through the attitude that I don't care. It's like, I have my job, but I'm not really gonna be productive. I will make sure the job is done, but I'm not really gonna do anything to improve things. And once the problem gone too far of their reservation, they might choose the option to exit. They choose to leave the organization that failed to give them the job satisfaction. So, employee will behave like this if the manager failed to support their employees, is that positive support from the management is not there and people are trying to get out of it. That's the sign that employees are not at all satisfied with their work. They're not happy to be working and the management is really poor and you need to change something. You need to do something with it. In addition to the first point which have been discussed, if there are some dissatisfaction which are left with no interference, they may lead to some consequence that actively damage the organization, such as abuse, stealing, gossiping, absence, or even aggressive attitude towards each other. This action belongs to a syndrome called counterproductive work behavior, or CWB. So here's a table to help you easier identify some of the counterproductive behavior and to see the close relationship between counterproductive act and low job satisfaction. You can see here with just quite low work satisfaction, they will do something not really serious, like to be late for work or use equipment without permission. But if it gets serious, they will do serious act like conflict with boss or have a fight or argument at work with other employees. And this is something that managers should try really hard to avoid. And among all of the action including the CWB, the two most well-known are absenteeism and turnover. It is believed that there are a close relationship between the satisfaction and these two behaviors, since employees with low job satisfaction are more likely to absent regularly or even quit the job. And this is a table to show you the major role of job dissatisfaction, negative attitude to these two behavior. For absenteeism, the low positive work attitude actually stand in the third place. So they play the third most important reason to make an employee absent from work, just after health problem and issue with work and life balance. And in the turnover, low positive work attitude actually standing the second place. So they played really important roles in making the employee to just quit the job, to turn over. So we've just discussed some of the outcome of job dissatisfaction, and I think it's really important for you to keep in mind to identify some of it, to just realize when the employee really need your help. And we move on to the some of the application.
You have got some idea about attitude and job satisfactions. Let's try to understand a few ways to apply this theory in managing and leadership situations. This could be similar to understand by examining some example about a few situations that could occur. I will show you a video about a few scenarios that a manager may face and description of how effective and ineffective manager would react. these have been some small examples on how managers should react in some situations to actually have improved employee satisfaction. Some key for you to remember on an overall management. You should provide a positive working environment. You should use reward and recognition efficiently. You should involve and engage the workforce, and finally, to develop worker skill and potential. Now, even if you are using these suggestions, how would you know that if the employee is satisfied? There's some multiple ways for you to evaluate their satisfactions, but usually the most accurate way is to ask the questions on whether they are satisfied with their job. You could provide them with a scale to report their degree of satisfaction. Another way is you can also observe their behavior. And by then you get more of the idea on how to improve their satisfactions. Another thing about applying this is when you try to search for ways to improve the environment and the individual satisfactions on a global scale. If you look at individual, what really makes an employee satisfied may also vary according to the Western or the Eastern cultures. For example, using tools such as promoting teamwork or interdependence might not be the best way to increase the satisfaction of those in the Western cultures, because they may prefer to work alone with freedom to make the most out of them and grow. Also, it is usually considered that Western workers appear to be more satisfied than those in the Eastern culture, perhaps because Westerners emphasize on positive emotions and individual happiness more than those in Eastern cultures, which means that, again, knowing what your employee needs the most and consider it is very important. One more thing you should remember when applying this theory. Now look at this. Some managers hold on to an old myth that high satisfactions always lead to high employee performance. But this idea is not correct. Satisfied workers, in fact, may be high, moderate, or low producer, and they will tend to continue the level of performance that previously brought them satisfactions. The satisfactions performance relationship is more complex than simple path of satisfactions lead to performance. An example on how to understand this is when using rewards to improve satisfactions. It is usually considered that high performance will lead to higher rewards. If the rewards are seen as fair, then employees would feel that they are receiving rewards in proportion to their performance, and therefore they will work harder for better rewards. If you give them the high reward at the beginning, they may lose incentive to work better. On the other hand, if rewards are seen as not enough for the level of performance, dissatisfactions tend to arise. But then again, I have to mention, satisfaction is very important for an individual. A worker attitude toward work is directly linked to job satisfaction. A worker who is satisfied with his job performs better and excels at what he does. A study of Harvard University found that when a person gets a job or a promotion, 85% of the time it is because of attitude, and only 15% of the time because of intelligence and knowledge of specific facts and figures. This shows that employees' attitudes are vital and very much considered in organizations, because when attitudes are positive, they are the reason to the success of organizations, and when they are negative, they are symptoms of underlying problems. That sounds like one hard job for managers to do. But how about us? Are we students ready to find a job that satisfies us and understand more about what we need? There's a way I would recommend for you. You should write a bit about your dream job and what satisfies you. You can start by writing down your job title, then listing out a few characteristics you would like to have about your first job when you finish college, and try to make them in order. After that, identify each job characteristic as an intrinsic satisfier, such as the job itself or how you will working with others, and extrinsic satisfier, like the pay or the benefit that you will be given by the company. Now, from the characteristics you have listed, consider what you really like and would make you feel satisfied. Is it from the job itself? Is it from the benefit to be given? Can the job you have written down possibly provide you those characteristics? You should do it with a group so you have more senses about your result to other individuals. By listing out and analyzing a few characteristics of what's satisfying about your dream job, you could identify partially about what you need, therefore finding the suitable requirement for your job and the company that may help you get the right job. Those are few applications I have researched. I hope that they are helpful to you. Now it's time to wrap up our lesson today.
All in all, we have just walked you through Chapter 3, Attitudes and Job Satisfaction. So now, let's have a look on what we have learned together so far. First, attitudes and its composition, where we discussed the definition of attitudes and its three components: cognitive, affective, and behavioral. Second, the relationship between attitudes and behaviors, where we learned that attitudes can influence our behaviors and the other way around, called cognitive dissonance. Next, we learned about job attitudes, namely job satisfaction and involvement, organizational commitment, perceived organizational support, employee engagement, and how they are connected together. Fourth, we dig deeper into job satisfaction, measurement, and variance. In the fifth and sixth part of the lessons, causes and outcomes of job satisfactions were discussed. And well, don't forget that we also discussed job dissatisfaction impacts. And we end by looking at how it implies for managers. Keeping all that well in mind and in application is important to raising job satisfaction and thus creating a positive workplace. Good luck with that to be managers. And these are the references for the lessons today. You may want to explore more at home. So that's all for the class today. I hope we all had a good time together. Thank you and see you in the next class. Goodbye.